Hello class. This module number 5 includes the last 2 chapters for this course of environmental science, which is chapter number 22, management of our waste, and the last chapter 24, which is about sustainable solutions. So on chapter 22, we will discuss the different aspects that are related with the management of waste. All whatever is left after the consumption of all the resources that are coming from the biodiversity to sustain our life. We are going to introduce the different categories of waste, okay? And then the most important thing under discussion within this chapter is going to be the stream flow management of the waste that we are trying to set up today. This line of management waste is what is called today cradle to cradle, that is basically based on 2 fundamental attitudes that we may have as a society. The first one is to reduce the amount of waste. That's what is called the source reduction during the manufacturing line production, and then to optimize the use of the waste instead of disposing the waste. And that's what is called recovery. And that includes 2 basic processes that are going to be discussed in this chapter, which is recycling and posting. And when we talk about posting or composting, okay, so what we try to bring over the table is just to grab all those CO2 or greenhouse gases, okay, into an storage in our planet instead of submit emissions into the atmospheres. That type of management of the waste is going to be a counterpart of what we have done in the past that was called cradle to grave, in which really all the waste was directly conducted to a final disposal that was called a landfill or the incinerators of the disposal. So as a consequences of this new tendency of how to handle the waste, we are going to discuss in this chapter some of the recoveries of the areas that at the very beginning of our century or the last century were places in which we dispose all the waste, but today we have a policy to recover this place and make of those places part of the beautiful landscape that we want to have today. This is just an introduction of what this chapter is going to be about. Then the final one, which is chapter 24, is a reflection of what we learned during this course in order to bring over the table of discussion the idea of having a sustainable society. And this is going to bring us to the original concept that we introduced at the very beginning of this course. That was the ecological footprint. So we know that the Earth today is, as your textbook mentioned, like an island with a huge amount of resources and a huge amount of biodiversity that are going to create, or they create, the basic resources that we need to sustain our life. But if we start overshooting our planet, as we are doing today, then our planet is not going to be sufficient to sustain our life. So we need to reverse that trend. And that's why this concept of ecological footprint has been developed recently in order to keep track and to increase the idea over the actual society that we need to preserve our planet, that we need to reduce or to better handle our consumption of the resources that we have today. And also, even more important, try to administrate the use of those sources of energy in order to prevent events that are going to reduce the life of our planet, like the emissions of the greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. So this final chapter is just a conclusion of this course. I hope that during the development of this course, you guys has been exposed to different aspects that today, if you are going to compute your ecological footprint, now you're going to have a factor that is going to be lower if you made the exercise at the very beginning of this course. So if that is the case, then you at least are going to have an idea of how important it is to handle and to manage our natural resources and energy in order to make a more sustainable society and planet, not only for us, but also for the new generations.